I hope this kept these kids sober for the rest of their life seeing this. There I am in this alley, squatted down. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude.
Like this. Like I'm caught.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, fuck. Well, and I remember thinking like, well, they're going to pass and it's just going to last a second. No, dude. They stopped. You know what I'm saying? They stopped. They've never seen anything like this.
Millie makes songs, hey, I made this one. Jerry builds bikes and they go real fast. They're mental defectives.
Welcome to the Mental Defectives Podcast, a show where we interview interesting individuals with a focus on addiction and mental health. I'm your host, Millie Graham. That's Millie if you know me, Mr. Graham if you know me. Joined, as always, by the Helldivers 2 of Harleys, the gearhead with the heart of gold. It's Mr. Jerry with a G.
I'm glad to be here.
And today we have an extremely special guest. He is a sober man, father, business owner. Dustin's his name. Laying pipe is his game. Please welcome Master Plumber and Master of Sobriety. It's Mr. Dustin P.
What's up, guys?
Dustin, how's it going?
Good, buddy.
Thank you
Good.
for being here.
I don't know why you invited me here. This is not going to air, dude.
That's exactly why we invited you here. Dustin, where are you from?
Columbus. I lived in Licking County, and I was country for 10 years, and then moved to Reynoldsburg, and for a couple years, and then I was just Columbus, all over Columbus. So I had to lose the accent.
Oh no! Oh, you had the
twang, dude.
the twang, bro. I worked with a guy. He had the craziest twang, and people would ask him all the time, like, "Are you from Louisville? Or are you from like West Virginia or something?" He's like, "I'm from the Hilltop." And he had the twang, the twangiest twang. Mm-hmm. It was ridiculous.
Too much country music, probably. Do that too.
That'll do it. When did you start drinking?
The weed came first.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the weed. 12. I was drinking and weed at 12. Drinking, stealing, fighting, weed, and cigarettes. And
Hell yeah.
And fucking. At 12. And then, the hard shit came a little later. But yeah, I got started young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you get started?
Dude, this fucking kid, man. My mom, there was the guy, right? You guys remember your guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
The first guy who was like, brought you into that world. This fucking kid, I still talk to him. He's a friend of mine. We moved into a new neighborhood, and I didn't have any friends. I was just playing video games all day. I didn't give a shit. But my mom he came to the door, and he was selling candy bars. Okay, and my mom's like, "Oh, Dustin, he lives right down the street." She must have talked to him for a minute. She's like, "He lives right down the street. He's your age." And I came outside, went out and talking to him, and then, looking back now, knowing what I know and where we went shortly after that, he was keeping all the money from the candy bars and buying weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And I'd never been around anybody like this before. And, I was, not everybody's like this, but I was definitely, and I see it in my son too. I don't know, it's biological, whatever, but I was not socially, I wasn't very socially evolved or whatever. I was behind. I was socially maladjusted. Mm-hmm. And, I had been on the advanced teams in school. I had been into sports a little bit. I'd been a nerd. I'd been all that stuff. And I didn't, I kind of liked all of it, but I didn't really fit in. And it wasn't because of the crowds. It was just because of me. And I was just an awkward kid. And, this kid was cool, relatively. And then I met the other kids, and it's like all you had to do to be friends with these kids was all the shit you're not supposed to do.
Right.
And then when you start doing all the shit you're not supposed to do, especially getting high and drunk, I didn't give a shit about fitting in anymore after that.
Yeah.
That just
Fair.
takes it away. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the first thing was cigarettes. I remember the first cigarette. In fact, you quit smoking cigarettes. You know how they taste like shit when you go back to them, Every time I go back to smoking cigarettes, I have a flashback of that moment where we were on his back porch at his parents' house and that first cigarette.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was the beginning. We all skateboarded and stuff, and in the beginning, it was a lot of skateboarding and smoking cigarettes and then getting high. and then a lot of getting high and a lot less skateboarding as time went on, you know. But yeah, that's how it started. Man, from there, it was acid, coke, ecstasy, mushrooms, Freon. You ever do any of that?
No.
Good.
No.
In the AC units, and you have
Yeah,
you huff
dude.
it.
They used to have Schrader valves on the line sets outside.
Yeah.
And I think they don't do that anymore. Do they? Are you an HVAC guy? Yeah, well, they did. And you just find you a little pebble and stick it in there and huff all the R22 out of somebody's house until it don't get cold no more in there.
Does the AC? Does their AC have to be running for that to work?
No.
It's a charged line.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can go do that in January.
Wait.
Go do it right. We can go do it right now.
Hell, okay. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back.
No, dude, that's like the worst. I guess that's some of that stuff. It's like one molecule away from like mustard gas. It's terrible for you. We would have seizures and stuff.
Oh wow.
Oh, and we would laugh about it, dude. We would be like, my one buddy's dad had he did HVAC and stuff, and he had like tanks of it for charging people's units and shit. And dude, we would just go in the garage and huff that stuff, and like then you would just like wake up you would just like teleport to the other side of the room. Like, what happened? And then I remember my buddies, including the candy bar kid, like we had like a VHS recorder showing me the video of me just on the floor, like, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a smart kid, dude. and then I huffed a bunch of R22.
And it's like a whippet.
Yeah, it is like a whippet. It's a lot
Okay.
like a whippet, but it's dirtier. It feels dirtier. But yeah, no good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
bueno.
all those drugs, pretty much everything like that.
And this is all while you're still in high school.
by the time I was like 14, I was doing all that stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, nice.
And then
Nice.
selling drugs and stuff. Nothing crazy. I know everybody likes to act like they were Pablo Escobar, but
Facts.
I did sell a little bit more drugs than most of the kids that I knew. Because I knew older people. Most of the kids I was running around with were 3 or 4 years older than me. And then I was getting the drugs from people who were 5 to 10 years older than me.
Right.
And, that most of these kids didn't know. So I kind of was, a little more into that than most of the kids were. But, yeah, and then, eventually the opioid thing happened. And, when I started doing the little stuff, I was just having fun. I was getting in trouble. My parents didn't really know what was going on. My grades were bad. I started fighting a lot around that time. I've been expelled from 7 high schools in the Columbus area.
Nice.
All for fighting. The dumbest thing my parents ever did. If you're a parent and your kids, are in school and stuff, don't take them to boxing classes. Okay, that was the stupidest fucking thing. That my worst parenting decision that my parents had was taking me to boxing classes. And like I was not like a great boxer or anything, but you don't have to be to beat the shit out of the other 14-year-old kids at your
Yeah.
school. You know what I mean?
A little bit of boxing, just enough to be like, okay, I know how to take
Dude,
a punch. I know how to throw a punch.
I had one strategy, bro. Okay, and I was tall.
Yeah.
Jab, jab, jab. Inevitably, they start with the windmill. You know what I mean? Because they're mad because you keep tapping them in the face, and then you just slip and cross right to the jaw, dude. Every time. Every time. 7 times in a row, dude. 7 high schools, 7 crosses, dude. And, back then, they, you got expelled and arrested and stuff. I don't think they're as hardcore anymore as they used to be. But I think out of those 7 schools, I think I got arrested 4 times, which, you're a kid. They charge you with assault. You get a disorderly conduct. You get a court. You get a continuance. You rack up some more charges. You go to court again. But, yeah, the pills came around, man. And, that really screwed me up. More about the fighting thing, it was like, because I was so socially maladjusted, I wasn't slick. Kids would run their mouth. I got picked on a lot because I was big, but I was awkward. I was just an easy target. And then in the absence of social skills and knowing how to deal with that, I used violence. You know what I mean? I was a really aggressive kid. I was a really, really, really aggressive kid.
It's interesting because I always feel like the drugs, like, take the place of like the aggression. So it's interesting to hear like all the fighting, but then the boxing lessons make it all make way more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was anytime anybody had anything to say that I didn't like or anything like that, or that was demeaning to me or whatever, it was just like, well, I'll beat your fucking ass, dude. You know what I mean? How about that? You know what I mean? And
this is pre-social media, so then word doesn't get out.
Yeah.
So you get expelled from one school, you go to a new school, and they don't know, like,
whatever.
hey, don't tease this kid because he'll knock you the fuck out.
Right.
well, or it's like the kid thinks he's tough, or he got in a fight, and then now you immediately start butting heads with the other tough kids, or
Right.
the other
Yeah.
kids who think they're tough. It just
Yeah.
gets worse. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But yeah, it was just a defense mechanism. You know what I mean? I was scared and uncomfortable, and that was one of the ways that I dealt with it, along with the drugs. And it was stupid. I've probably been in 30 or 40 fights in my life, and like maybe 2 or 3 of them couldn't have been avoided. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe, you know? So it was all bullshit. I wasn't bullying people, but I would go to men, and like I said, I had my little move, and like I knew they wasn't ready. You know what I mean? So I'd pick at them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but yeah, when when those pills came around, dude, that was a game changer. You know, I've talked to people about this who like that aren't in recovery, and you know, you get to talking about stuff, and you know, one thing a lot of people say is like, it's just a perfectly reasonable thing to say. Like, I just can't imagine why anybody would ever do heroin, right? Like,
Right.
on its face,
Sure.
it's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Everybody knows it, and they've known it since before all of us were born. It's a fucking stupid thing to do. But when those pills came around, and, you know, like I said, I was a dumpster drug kid. I huffed the duster. I did Freon. I did everything. And then those pills showed up, and it's just like, well, what, dude? You know what I mean? Like, I've been on 10 hits of acid, you know what I mean? Thinking that the universe was about to, like, I'm about to break through the wall, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm about to break through the dimensional wall, you know, and wake up from the simulation and shit. Like, I'm not scared of a painkiller, you know what I mean?
Right.
Facts.
Right.
And that shit just grabbed a hold of my soul, dude.
Oh,
You
no
know,
doubt.
I never, you know, couldn't get away from it, so.
And it's something like, I always thought about it of like, because my story is similar. Like, I started smoking weed and skateboarding, and then you're doing more weed smoking than skateboarding, and it's like, well, I already have to, like, to get weed, I'm like buying it illegally through people, and then like, well,
Right.
this pill comes from a CVS down the street, so like this can't be that bad.
No.
But I had no, you know.
When I started doing opiates, I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Me
I didn't know what dope sickness was or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So when someone
Yeah.
says, like, how could you do heroin? It's like, dude, I didn't know. Like, my hand was held all the way into that life. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was pills, and then it was lots of pills. And then, like, dude, I was getting 80s for, like, I would get like 100 of them for $1,700. So then I'm just rolling in pills. Everybody wants them. I'm doubling and tripling my money. Dude, I had a 480 milligram a day Oxycontin habit. All 80s. All 80s, dude. Just monstrous. And then all of a sudden, and suspiciously so, right? All the pills were gone,
Yep.
Right.
and all the streets were flooded with heroin at the exact same time. There was no gap there, right? There was no... I'm a conspiracy guy. You know what I mean? I don't care. I'll entertain all kinds of stuff, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, holy shit. There has to be, like, fucking infrastructure in place to suddenly flood the streets of the country with black tar heroin at the moment that the pills disappear, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there it was. And it was like 80% of the people that I knew that were doing lots of pills were on heroin now. And 20% of them, you know, or whatever amount, they stopped, you know, when the pills dried up. And I went to heroin. And I think I was on heroin by the time I was 17 or 18 years old. And then, you know, I didn't do much of anything else at that point. It was just all heroin all the time, you know. And it was all bad. Had a couple kids in there. Went to college for philosophy. I actually made it through like 2.5 years of college with a full-blown heroin addiction.
That is impressive.
Dude, I went to fucking a nice university, you know what I mean? And I'm like at these parties with these kids, and like they just found like Natty Light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
in the bathroom, like, you know, coming back out.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And they didn't even know what I was doing. They're so naive. And ended up dropping out because I just couldn't hang no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I had some kids, dude, and it was just all bad. I mean, I got some stories, dude. It was all that heroin shit was all bad. Homeless, sleeping in the woods a lot. I got broke of that when I was a kid. My dad kicked me out when I was 15, and I was pretty much on my own after that. And I could have gone back, and I was wild as fuck. Like, I see why he did that. I was gearing up to try and hit him with the cross. You know what I'm saying? Like, could I get it off on the old man?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
he didn't want that fade.
I didn't want it either, really, but I think he could tell I was thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was time for me to go, dude. I had felonies and all kinds of shit by that time, and I could, if I had the presence of mind to humble myself, he certainly would have let me back in. But I'm like, fuck no, dude. You know what I mean? I'm sleeping in the woods. You know what I mean? And I did. I slept in the woods for a long time. I was working in this dish tank. I would eat people's leftover food and shit. And I was actually, I was okay. I would just sleep in the woods. I had my little quarter pound of weed in a Ziploc bag. You know what I mean? I had an army sleeping bag. I was just roughing it, dude.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting my own apartment when I was 16.
How'd you swing that?
My dope dealer, there was an open unit above him, and one of my drug dealers, I wasn't on heroin or anything yet, and I had a girlfriend that was 19, and I just paid for everything, and I brought her with me, and I was like, it was my apartment, it was in her name, you know what I mean?
Right.
I pulled her out of her parents' house for the first time and fucked her whole life up and moved her in with me, and then it was all pit bull puppies, ARs, and fucking drugs you know what I mean?
Did you ever have a white pit bull named Kilo?
No.
Oh, I've known 10 people that
I had a blue pit bull named Karma, is what I had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
but
like it.
no, dude, it was no good. And then, it got sad, right? But it was rough for a while. I got with this girl, we had some kids, they got taken away, we're running around. And then it was just pathetic. You know what I mean? I was pathetic, dude. I didn't have no hustles left. I couldn't hardly even fight anymore. I got vitamin deficiencies and shit. You know what I mean?
45 pounds underweight.
Yeah,
at least.
yeah.
Skin and bones are, oh, fuck you
Yeah,
up.
dude, I don't have cardio. I don't have
Right.
strength. I don't have nothing.
Yeah.
I don't have potassium. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have no hustles left. I would just sit there and scroll through my phone in the morning, up and down the contacts list, trying to conjure up some scheme to get somebody to let me walk around the corner with $10 until I could, and then I'd be off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just sad shit.
The Mental Defectives Podcast is brought to you by Milligram's new EP, More Is Always Better. 6 electrifying tracks available on all streaming platforms.
I'll tell you a story. This is the type of shit that would just happen every fucking day. I go to this dude's house. His name was Moose. Okay.
Nice.
Big old fat dude selling dope on the south side. And I go in there. This dude's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? I'm a piece of shit. He was probably fucking my kid's mom. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I go in there, and I've got $20, right? And I'm waiting for my little shit. And dude, I was just destitute. I didn't have no car. I didn't have no place to go. I didn't have nothing. I didn't have a spoon, right? All I had was a needle and a prayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And I go into this dude's house, and it's I don't have cotton. I don't have water. I don't have all the tools of the trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I steal a spoon out of this dude's shit while he's upstairs getting my bag. And, he comes down and gives me my shit, and then I'm just walking down the road. You know what I mean? I got dope and I got a spoon.
Yeah.
And it's the middle of the fucking day, and I got them dope shits coming on. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Yes.
You get that dope in you, that shit goes away. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Right.
So I get in it. I don't have water. You know what I mean? It's not looking good. I'm nowhere near a bathroom. You know what I mean?
All bad.
Dude. So I go in this alley, and I'm like, fucking, what am I gonna do? I'm like, I think I can spit in the spoon enough to get, you know what I'm saying?
God.
So on the way to the alley, I'm not swallowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. I get in this alley, dude, and I got a shit, bud. It's coming. So I fucking squat down, and it's like a hill. It's like a little hill down to the alley. I'm on this little hill, balls hanging, and I'm fucking shitting, and I got this spoon and I'm spitting in this fucking spoon. You know what I mean? And I'm shitting and I'm spitting, dude. And fucking, you know, I'm trying to cook it up, and it's real thick. It's not working real good. But I get it cooked. I got it changed from a solid to a liquid, and you know, now you can't spill it. If you spill it, it's fucking gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You are in a very precarious
It's all been
position.
for naught, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I've got it liquid,
Yeah.
and I'm shitting. I got shit on my balls. I'm shitting on a hill. It's going down. I should have turned the other way. And fucking.
Always shit downhill, kids.
I didn't know. I just didn't know. And dude, this fucking parade of like 10-year-old kids comes down this alley
Oh no.
on bicycles, dude.
Oh my God.
And like I said, I'm in the liquid state. You know what I'm saying? I can't fucking move, dude. I can't pull my shorts up because I might spill my fucking dope.
Oh yeah.
So
dude.
there I am, dude. I hope this kept these kids sober for the rest of their lives seeing this. There I am in this fucking alley, squatted down. You know what I mean? Like this, like I'm caught.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, fuck. Well, and I remember thinking, like, well, they're going to pass, and it's just going to last a second. No, dude. They stopped. You know what I'm saying? They've never seen anything like this. It's a fucking spectacle. You know what I mean? They fucking all stop on their bikes. They're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And I'm like, fucking get out of here. Go get, you know? Try not to lose my fucking balance and shit. But that's just the type of shit, you know? And then I get that dope in me, and fucking I'm just wandering down the street. Don't know where the fuck to go. Don't know what the fuck to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking pathetic, man.
Yeah.
And
no one called the cops. No one.
I don't think so. There was no cell phones back. Thank God, by the
Thank
way.
God.
Oh yeah, because you would have ended up.
Thank
on
God.
they would have all been out there
they've been
filming
all
that.
bad.
Oh, I'd have been in big trouble. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now I got 15 cameras pointed at me, I'm talking about it. 15 years later.
We're
But
well past the statute of limitations. You're so good.
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, I've heard of people using like toilet water, like back to the toilet water,
Oh,
like,
I did all
out of
that
a puddle or
goofy
something.
shit.
Yep.
I've never heard the spit thing.
Yeah, no, I came up with that. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But
Yeah.
no, that was creative thinking. I hadn't
For
heard
sure.
I hadn't heard that from anybody. I was just desperate.
Okay, so you're. Okay, we covered a lot of ground. So you're doing all the drugs. You get kicked out at 15. We're living in the woods with a sleeping bag and a quarter-pound of weed. Get the apartment in the girlfriend's name.
Yeah.
Shooting dope by this point.
Started to at that point.
Started to at that
late into
point.
that, yeah.
So then we're what, like early 20s?
No, I got sober at 22.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so you had
so
a
no.
condensed.
That was going on. I
Oh, yeah.
started the first time I shot up. I think I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah, and then by 18, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right.
And that lasted about 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then I was in and out of rehab during all that. You know what I mean? I went to rehab, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, and it just didn't stick. You know what I mean? And,
Doing detoxes or
yeah, mostly
month-long
detox,
stints.
month-long, yeah, the old
Yeah.
Dan Cannon deal. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Right.
The first time I really got sober, I went to the 6-month thing, and it stuck after that. But
And was this like parents forcing you in?
no, dude, they didn't give a fuck. I was way out of parents' house. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't give a fuck. They were
Just uninvolved
not in
at
my
this
world.
point.
Right.
Yeah, they were not in my world. I remember one of the last times. No, it was the last time. The last time I used, I was homeless. My kid's mom wouldn't even fuck with me anymore because I was just a sorry motherfucker. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
girls always can get dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was out of hustles, dude. I had nothing. No body. No, I couldn't hold a job. Couldn't sell nothing. Anybody that I had a chance to middleman anything with had long since wised up, right? Like I didn't have, you know, that's when shit gets rough because what guys got to do to get dope at that point is you're going to jail. You're gonna have to steal shit and rob people. That's all you got left. You know what I mean? And that's what I was doing. And I had been in and out of the fucking loony bin so many times. Like they fucking, you know. They'd pink slip me and shit, and then they would take my fucking shoes. Here's another one for you. They like, I would go into and get on the 3-day psych hold, right? And at net care, and then I would always just run out of there like 24 to 48 hours in, just out the emergency door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they had like this crisis unit where if you were in there for like a day, they would move you into this unit or whatever. But there was an emergency door in that unit. So they wouldn't let me go back there anymore because I always just ran out the emergency door. And they also started taking my shoes and all that shit. And I would still find an emergency door. There was another one in the front. And I would run out of there. And I would have no shoes, gown on, you know what I'm saying? And the fucking socks with the tread on the bottom.
grippy socks.
The
grippy
grip
socks.
socks.
Yeah,
dude.
grippy socks.
Yes.
And I would just be running down
Yep.
Sullivan Avenue. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's chasing me.
No.
The alarm's
Yeah.
going off. So
Right.
it feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Naturally.
But there's nobody chasing you.
Yeah.
And I'd go to the fucking gas station, and it was the same Arab dude that ran that gas station every time. And I'd go in there, and I'd be like, let me use the phone. You know what I mean? And the first time he let me use it and realized that was a fucking mistake. The second time I went in there, and I was like, let me use the phone. You know, hospital gown, everything. And he's like, no, he fights with me and shit, and I won't fucking leave. Finally gives me the phone to get me to go the fuck away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the third time I went in there, he didn't say a word. I didn't even ask him for the goddamn phone. I was standing there in line, and he fucking got the phone out and reached around the dudes in line and just gave it to me. Like, get this dude the fuck out of here. That's pretty sad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is supposed to be a turning point in my life, and I keep going back to the Valero and borrowing the landline from the same dude at the counter.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
such a routine that he just gives it to me now.
Oh,
you know?
my
It's one thing to like a bartender like knows your drink or your
Yeah.
name or something. It's
Yeah.
a whole nother level for the
Gas
Valero
station
clerk
clerk to know.
the gas station cashier to
you
know
need
your
to fuck.
psych ward routine.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
I fucking love it. What
you
was,
know.
what was your hustle when you were like the stealing phase and robbing people and stuff? Did you have a
Burglary.
specific thing? Okay,
Yeah,
a
but
little B&E.
Yeah, I did a lot of that when I was younger, and then the, you know, when I was real young, I was breaking into cars and stuff. I got caught doing that, and then the main thing was middleman and shit and selling drugs.
Yeah,
and
sure.
shit. But then that slowly deteriorates into like household objects. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't care. Is it the TV? Is it the thermostat? Is it the fucking DVDs? Is it, you know what I mean? And that was all I had left in the end. Always was hoping to just middleman something and get me a piece, but and it was sad too. Like I knew another guy that was just a worse example of that. Like, like I said, I sold a lot of shit when I was young, and then when I started getting a little bit older, it was just to keep up my habit, right?
right.
So like a lot of people get caught for distribution, and it's like, a lot of those people. I'll give you an example. I had a friend. He got caught out from where I grew up, and then like they put a picture of him like in the paper. That was during the time when they were talking about charging people with murder for selling heroin and
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
And he got hemmed up right in the thick of that, dude.
Eek.
And they put a picture of his face in the paper and shit. And like he had like a flat built hat on and like a gold chain and shit. He looked like a drug dealer. And they painted it like this big deal. And I think they charged him with attempted murder, but then they always pled everybody down. And they were only doing that for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. Dude, this kid was not a drug dealer. He was a fucking junkie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was doing what a lot of them do. He was middleman and shit. Might have a little reserve of like $100 worth of heroin if he had a come up that he
Yeah.
would dole out and make
Right.
a little money on. But he was just a junkie trying to stay high.
Right.
And they acted like he was a fucking Pablo Escobar. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's crazy how those laws like don't take into account like the difference between like possession with intent to distribute versus like regular possession versus
Right.
distribution. Like it's the amounts are so
Yeah.
small for someone that's so in the
Right.
thick of it.
The dude that I stole the spoon from is the dude that those laws are made for, right? That
Yeah,
dude was
sure.
not a drug
Right.
addict.
Yeah.
That dude
Right.
was destroying civilization
Right.
knowingly and actively
Right.
as a sober person. You know what I
Right.
mean? To make money,
Yep.
right? And there's a difference between that and
Yeah.
being like a dumbass kid or a junkie who's trying to feed his habit, and that's the only
Right.
way you can freaking do it.
Yeah.
But no, that's how I got most of the money, and it's. I knew another guy. He had tattoos all over him, West Side dude, and like the dude that I was getting all the oxys and stuff from, and he had like 5 girls with the same MRIs going down to Florida during that whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he had so many fucking pills, he was like scared. I mean, he was balling out of control. And like that dude shot somebody's house up with on a bicycle while riding on a bicycle over $50 and then killed somebody in the wrong side of a duplex and is doing life in prison for that.
Damn.
Like that dude was, I looked up to that dude.
Right.
As, as distorted as my worldview was.
Yeah.
And then, he killed like somebody on accident over $50 because he just turned into a junkie just like everybody else.
Right.
It's sad, dude. It's, all the people. I mean, you guys know. Everybody knows. Everybody's dying all the time,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Or going to prison.
Did you have any jail stints in this time frame?
No, and that's really good because I was tough when I wasn't in jail, and I did go to jail a couple times for very short periods of time. I never got held, so I always bailed out, and I would call my mom or my girlfriend or one of my friends, and I'd be like, "Hey, dude," or mom or whoever, the money's in the mattress. Right? Come get me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm downtown. But like, dude, I remember one time I went in there and I was like, this is not a good deal. You know what I mean? Like I was in the holding tank downtown, bend over and cough. It's just terrible. The sheriffs are roided out and they're assholes. You know what I mean? And they were like taking pictures of me for your Rolex, you know what I mean? They put the little wrist thing on you with your picture on it. And like they were talking to me when they were doing it, and I didn't realize until afterwards I walked by their little area and they were like drawing, when they were getting you to talk, they're trying to get a snapshot of you when your face is as fucked up as it could possibly be. So my Rolex had me on I'm like mid-sentence and blank, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they put that on my wrist, and then they had pictures of all the dudes that were in the holding tank and with like little bubbles on them, and they're drawing dicks in their mouth and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of place is this, man? Then I get back there. I'm the only white dude there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think at that time I was either 18 or 19, and I was in there for assault, and this pot of dudes, they're all in their 30s, 40s. You know what I mean? And
that's intimidating as fuck.
It is.
As a teenager going in there with some grown ass men.
Yeah, and then most of them I wasn't scared of. It was the fact that I was kind of like an outlier. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm like, well, even if I did knock this dude out, like these dudes are all going to beat the shit out of me.
Right.
And then the boss came in. Okay. This dude looked like Kimbo fucking Slice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The beard and everything.
Oh, nice.
Roided out, probably 40, 50 years old, my height. You know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, this dude's in charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he comes in and he starts going around and he's asking everybody, like, what are you in here for? What are you in here for? And I'm like waiting for my turn, and I'm like, I'm not telling this big motherfucker I'm in here for assault. You know what I mean?
Is that then an invitation?
You a fighter, huh?
Right,
you a fighter, huh?
Yeah.
No, sir. I lied and said I was in there for receiving stolen property. And, then they came around, and it's like we were in there forever waiting to go upstairs. And, like, they come around and they got these bologna sandwiches. And they fucking give us all a bologna sandwich. And, by now I'm starting to – the withdrawals are starting to kick in.
Oh, yeah.
The last thing I want in the world is a fucking bologna sandwich with no mayonnaise on it on white bread. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm sitting
At room temperature.
Yeah.
Or a little warm.
Right.
And it's like, why is it a little warm? It's
Yeah.
either room temperature or cold, but it's a little
It's a little
warm.
warm.
And I don't know why. Like, why? What happened to this?
Right, yeah, what
Yeah.
happened to it? Not to mention the
Right.
fucking sheriffs are out here drawing dicks in everybody's mouth. You think you know what I mean? I don't
Right.
trust the sandwich, right, to begin with.
Right.
So I'm like sitting there and I'm like, these dudes got their sandwiches. They're all eating their sandwich. I don't want my fucking sandwich. But I don't want to give nobody my sandwich.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the longer I sit there, I'm like, dude, this sandwich is a fucking liability. This sandwich is a fucking problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a problem because, like, all you can think about in that environment is violence. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like
Yeah.
there's a huge potential for violence. And And I sat there, dude, and I had to choke that fucker down. And I thought I was going to throw up, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to give it to nobody.
Right.
Because I didn't want to look like a bitch.
Send the wrong message.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy how...
Not the place for me, dude. Not the place for me. I'm very fortunate. I did a lot worse things than a lot of other people that I know that spent a lot of time in prison.
Yeah.
Facts.
So, I remember we got, on that note, I remember we got pulled over. You mind? I'll just tell them stories and shit.
Go for it.
I remember I got pulled over one time. I was with my buddy. He's dead now. He was my best friend at the time. And I did a lot of acid, dude. Like, too fucking much. Like, you want to start talking about aliens and shit, you know what I mean? Like, most of the people who are obsessed with shit like that usually did too much acid. Either that or those are just the kind of people who are going to take a whole bunch of acid.
Yes.
I don't know.
Chicken and
Yeah.
eggs.
Yeah.
Right. I feel you.
But anyway, we were tripping fucking balls, and I was a big fan of, dude, if you didn't eat a 10 strip, you're a fucking pussy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So I'm on a 10 strip, my boy's tripping, and then we had some coke, and, like, I had a lot of acid. Like a lot of prison worth of acid. And we both had pistols on us. And we're going 110 miles an hour down 270 at 2 o'clock in the morning in my mom's minivan. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Hell
Just why the fuck not, dude? You know? And,
totally normal behavior.
oh, my God, dude.
right.
Just out of our minds. And we got pulled over, you know? And I've got a pistol. He's got a pistol. I've got a couple sheets.
Yeah.
Probably got, I don't know, quarter ounce or half an ounce, something like that, of coke and weed and you know,
Loaded up.
All
I
the
don't think
stuff.
we were 18 yet. And fucking, we get pulled over, dude, going 110 in the middle of the night.
You driving or your buddy's driving?
He was driving my mom's minivan
Okay.
that we stole in the middle. You know,
Right.
we
Yeah.
snuck it
Right.
out of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And fucking, I don't even remember how, dude, I might have been 16 or something. I don't remember how old I was. I was young. And his first words are, you know how intense it is.
Oh, yeah.
We got to kill him. That was his first fucking words, dude. We
Your
got to
buddy
kill him.
said-
I was like, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking,
What
like,
the
we're fucked.
fuck?
And he's like, we got to kill him. And I know exactly what the line of reasoning is, right? We're fucked,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
We're
Right.
going to prison for
Right.
a long time.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, dude, no. I was like, don't say anything. I was like, put it under the seat. And we both did this. And you know, you keep your, because they're
Yep.
walking.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you
You
gotta
sure
do
they're
that.
seeing. Yeah.
You know, and stuffed him under the seat. This fucking cop came up to the window, dude, and started yelling, red-faced, immediately. What the fuck's wrong with you guys? All this shit. Like, spit's coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And I told my boy, I was like, don't say anything. Don't even speak. I
Yeah.
will talk.
Right.
And this dude yelled at us for what seemed like forever. And we're coke and acid.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified, like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he didn't know what to say. We didn't say anything. We didn't try to defend ourselves. Nothing. For once in my life, the acid fucking effect
Yeah.
really benefited me in a position with authority because that was the thing to do. Just don't talk.
Right.
And because he's just going to argue. He's going to get mad. He's going to pull you out of the car.
Yeah.
And he just went on, and then he was done. And then he was like, what are you guys, just being fucking stupid? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, God damn it. And he goes back to the fucking cruiser. And I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He goes back to the cruiser. I'm like, no fucking way. We're about to get away with this, dude.
Yeah.
And he came back and he was like, I wrote you guys a ticket for the speed that I clocked you at, not the speed that I paced you at, which was 110 fucking miles an hour. And then he looks at me and he's like, does your mom know that you have this car? And I was like, probably not. He was like, get the fuck back to your house. You know what I mean?
Damn.
And he let us go.
Damn.
I had a bunch of close calls like that. I feel
Yeah.
bad. I had
Sure.
friends that got hemmed up for petty
Yeah.
shit. Like that
Yeah.
one kid, he was middlemaning a little bit of dough.
Right.
And ended up going to prison for a few years. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I was really lucky, dude.
Damn. And that's something that's like, I didn't realize till like years into sobriety of like how far being like a young, like coming off as like a young, dumb, like white kid gets you with law enforcement. Because
Right.
one time I got pulled over. I was bringing dope from Phoenix. I was out in Arizona at the time. From Phoenix to Flagstaff, I got pulled over on the side of the freeway. It's like a Monday night at 1 a.m. or something. I'm doing out there the freeway. It's 70 or 75 miles an hour. I'm probably doing 100 or 90 or whatever it is, and pulled me over for speeding. And it was like the desert. It gets freezing at night. That like higher elevation. And so the cop over the loudspeakers like exit the vehicle and come up to my window, and I was like, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
I'm fucked. If you get out of the car, you're fucked.
Right.
And he just didn't want to get out of his car.
He was
Yeah.
just cold.
I had like probably an ounce of dope in there.
Yeah.
And he had a drug dog in the car, a German Shepherd. And just because he didn't want to get out of his car, he just clocking a dumbass kid in a speeding ticket, like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I would, just like you're saying,
Can you
like,
imagine if you got like how different your life would have been? Just that tiny little.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my
you know
God,
what I
yeah.
mean? If I said the wrong thing in
Yep.
that moment,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
you know, it would have destroyed my fucking life. You know?
or if your buddy's like, we got to kill him, and you're like, you're right.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's
How
the
many
whole
hits?
thing,
How many
right?
hits did I have to take before I agreed with him? You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
what, I couldn't hold my acid. No shit, man.
Gee.
Yeah.
And then, well, on the plus side, then you'd be on a Netflix documentary instead of our shitty podcast. But
What the
there's always a silver lining somewhere. Yeah, dude, that's nuts.
Yeah.
But no, dude, I mean, you know, eventually I got sober. I had nothing left. I was really fortunate. There was one guy who cared about me that I met the first time I went to rehab. He was always trying to push me in the right direction, and I trusted him. You know what I mean? I trusted him. And I was talking to him about this lately. He was gay. And I think that's a lot of the reason that I trusted him, because I had such distorted, like, image in my head of what a man was. Like, and it was like a mix of like my father and who my father was and who my father wasn't, and then who I wanted to be. And it was just a twisted up mess of like this tough, intellectual, hardworking, badass, like fucking just nonsense. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'd never listened or respected anybody really for most of my life, because nobody fit that fucking model. Right?
It doesn't exist.
Sure.
It doesn't
right.
exist.
I was
life.
going to say,
Yeah.
it's all in your head.
Right. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist. And I didn't put that on him.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because he was a gay man.
Sure.
So I'm like, well, this dude is a different world. That's this dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't hold him to that standard. And in a weird way, I was willing to receive criticism and advice from him for, I think, a lot for that reason, and because he clearly genuinely cared about me.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't receive from anybody else. And that dude, I won't go into it, but he did a lot to get me help over and over and over again. And he finally got me into that treatment center, and you know, I stayed there.
Was that the last straw? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And fucking, you know, I had no place to go. Kid's mom
Right.
was gone. Kids had been taken away. Like,
Sure.
fucking, there was nothing left.
Yeah.
And that was the right place to be, too, fortunately. You know, I think I could have got sober earlier if I had been around the right people at the right times. Like,
Yep.
there were certain low spots, but it just wasn't there. You know, I think you're really fortunate if you ever have anybody like that. And I think that, you know, I got a lot of friends that are dead that tried, you know, just as hard as me to get sober at different
Yeah.
times. And back then, it was way harder. Well, in a different way, right? Now there's treatment shit available everywhere, but the
Yeah.
quality of it has all
Sure.
gone down. So it's, you know, kind of a double-edged sword with that shit. But yeah, I got sober, dude. And then after getting sober, you know, it was a long grind, dude. You guys ever play video games? That's what it feels like grinding for experience, or grinding
Yeah.
for, you know,
Currency and
Yeah, dude.
Right.
leveling up.
yeah, I had a long, slow one. Like I had a lot of friends who had a much easier time. I had no skills to make money. I worked in restaurants for a long time. I had no license for the first 5 years that I was sober. I drove anyway most of the time. I never got caught because I wasn't
I
going
was going to
100.
ask how you got to meetings and stuff. Okay, that worked. Yeah,
Yeah.
But what you were going to ask? What?
how you got to meetings and stuff. But I mean, if you're
Yeah, no, I did that. I went to meetings every day
Yeah.
for the most
Yep.
part for the first like 5 or 6 years. And then, you know, I went to a sober house. I worked steps over and over and over again with different people. I always have hopped sponsors. I don't know. A lot of people have one sponsor the whole time. That's cool. I didn't. I just always changed sponsors after I got done with steps. But, you know, it took me 5 years to get my license back. Took me 5 years to get my son back. Took me 6 years to get my daughter back. You know, had another kid in there with a woman who it could be most accurately, I think, be described as a demon from hell. Okay. And then tried to make shit work with her. Didn't happen. You know, then ended up with 3 kids all by myself. Got a trade. Started doing plumbing. Started actually making money. Tried to go back to school.
How'd you get into that?
I had a job I was doing the restaurant thing forever. Knew that was going nowhere. Killing myself, dude.
Right.
Work is an escape. Work can be an escape too.
Sure.
So I needed money, but also like you don't have to deal with shit when you're at work for fucking 80 hours a week. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And but got a job at a factory to try and get more money, and then ended up getting a job at a plumbing company through somebody that I knew for no particular reason. And then I was also going back to school at the time, trying to be a chemical dependency counselor, which I wanted to be a philosophy professor. And I went to school for philosophy. I was reading fucking Nietzsche when I was 13 years old.
Right,
you know what I mean? I was a Buddhist, Eastern philosophy, Voltaire. I loved that shit. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even understand most of it when I was a kid. But even that infatuated with me, because I'd be like, I would have like a dictionary, a regular dictionary, a philosophy dictionary, and then like Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And I'm like reading this shit. I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. I'm like, and then I would like have to read a footnote and then like look up like 6 different words to understand one sentiment in like the first chapter of the book.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, whoa, that's crazy deep. And then I'd be like, this dude, like to me at the time being a kid, I'm like, this dude is like almost like a different species, right? Like these philosophers, these big thinkers, you know what I mean? Like this dude's almost not even human. It just took me fucking 20 minutes to even figure out what the fuck this sentence means. You know what I mean? And then I was just like, I just want to know more, dude. I've always been like that. I just wanted to know more. So when I wanted to do the chemical dependency counselor thing, that was like a compromise for me. And like I was working full time, digging fucking shit pipe, you know what I mean? 50 hours a week, digging up and replacing sewers and shit at that plumbing company. And then I was going to school at night online all night, and I had 3 kids.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Well, it's impossible. And that
sounds,
that was the thing too. I talked to my mom about it, and like, you know, as much as I don't like, you know, we don't like to listen to our parents and shit, like she provided the perspective for me, where I was like, Mom, I just don't know how the fuck I'm gonna pull this off. You know what I mean? I got 2 years of school left. I got, you know, I'm up till 1 o'clock in the morning writing papers. I'm up at fucking 5:30 in the morning and going out doing manual labor all day. I don't spend enough with, I'm just spread too thin. I don't spend any time with the kids. And she was like, Dustin, do you know anybody who has done what you're trying to do right now? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, so-and-so got his degree, or so-and-so, you know what I mean? And she's like, that's not what I asked you. I said, do you know anybody who's working 50 hours a week to pay their bills at their apartment so their kid can be in a good school, that's taking fucking 14 credit hours worth of courses at night, and then had a family?
Right.
And she's like, do you know anybody who's done that? And I was like, no, I don't. And then I kind of too realized, like, aside from that, maybe I could have pulled it off, but like it was selfish. The job was for me, and I knew immediately, like, I'm gonna make more money probably within a year than I will if I get a fucking master's degree doing this shit that I want to do because I think I'll enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was like, this is not fair to my kids, you know? And because I was looking at like a $16 at the time, $16 an hour fucking job with a master's degree. I was making $15 an hour at the fucking plumbing company,
right?
You know, and I was like, I gotta just do pipe shit. I'm just a pipe motherfucker. You know what I mean? That's what I gotta be. And I knew too, I had to pick something.
Yeah.
Because I was Mr. Jump to another job for another dollar type of shit. Yeah. And you never get good at anything like that. So I stuck with the plumbing, and next to getting sober, that's the second best decision I've ever made in my life. It's changed my life fucking dramatically. You know, I'm comfortable now. Yeah. I have I got a business. There's 6 guys at my business.
Oh,
you know
nice.
what I mean? We're starting to make money. It's a fucking grind, dude. It's tough. And like being a plumber or whatever, being a tradesman is way different than being the owner of a plumbing company. Like I'm learning marketing. I got to learn sales. I got to learn SEO. I got to learn accounting. I got to learn tax law. I got to learn how to manage people, which I've never done before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a whole different
it's
beast.
a completely different thing, dude.
Fuck.
Completely different. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, like my kids we go to place. You know what I'm saying? We're going to Cedar Point on Monday. We fucking, you know what I mean? It did change my life.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
That's awesome.
But I was broke as fuck for the first 8 years. You know, I was broke as fuck, and bad relationships. I think it's almost a rite of passage to get into a relationship with some crazy person and then have a kid when you get into 12-step stuff, because
you would not be the first and you will not be the last.
For sure.
No, I got a great woman now, and life is good, man. The game now is spirituality, right? And your thoughts about that change. Another weird thing about getting sober and being in the recovery community is I feel like I'm talking too much.
Not at all.
No, that's why you're here.
But when you go from being a piece of shit junkie, like shitting and spitting in a spoon, to having a job and trying to raise your children, that is a leap, I think, in spiritual progress, right? That most people never experience, right?
100%.
Because most people grow up somewhat normal, and they live normal,
right?
And we went from being, something akin to a monster, to being somewhat normal. You know what I mean? That's a lot of progress.
It's a real steep up.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we get sober, and we go into these rooms and stuff, and we deal with these other people, and we talk about spiritual shit. But now we're on a level playing field with everything else. And just like with the business, being a plumber is not the same as being a business owner. Getting from piece of shit to normal is not the same as getting from normal to what it is that we all like to talk about, right? Being a spiritual human being. And then, there's a good quote. It's it takes a wise man to recognize a wise man. And when they say when you get a sponsor or whatever that you should look for somebody who has what you want. Well, what I wanted when I first got sober is a lot different than what I want now. And I've met a lot of people in recovery and stuff, and I've met very few who I believe are actually spiritual people. That's not to knock on everybody else. We're all doing great, dude. You know what I mean? We're all doing really good, and we're all really lucky, and we're all really blessed. But when you want to talk about somebody who's on a spiritual level above average people, those people are extremely rare. And they're also hard to even recognize. You know what I mean? Because they're not entertainers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you hear somebody speak like in this setting or wherever, and it's like they're spitting the fire or whatever. Like, hey, dude, you know who else have fire? Like Alan Watts, right? And I love to listen to him, but he died of alcoholism. You know what I'm saying? Most of these dudes that I know who actually I feel like know what they're talking about, they're boring. You know what I mean? And then you got to really listen in and really look closely, right? And you'll see that they're actually living a spiritual life, and it almost makes you uncomfortable. You ever get around people and you talk about your alcoholism and they probably have an alcohol problem, right? Or they just know that you're sober. That'll happen too. Like, you want a drink? You gonna get a drink? And it's like, no, I don't drink. And then, like, if they have any kind of problem or think that they do, right, it throws them into this existential nightmare, right? And it's just this kaleidoscope.
Because you just accidentally held up a giant mirror.
Right. Not on purpose.
Right. Just
by being who you are.
Yeah.
So then now they're like this weird kaleidoscope of, like, reflections bouncing off of you, with them trying to reconcile their own inner fucking turmoil about the fact that they probably have a problem.
Right.
And you don't even say anything.
Right.
I feel that way around these people about myself now, right? And instead of, right, being a junkie or a drunk to somebody who's gotten sober, it's just being a normal person to somebody who is living it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's an uncomfortable feeling,
you
know? But, yeah, man, that's one thing I like a lot. Like, after staying sober for a while, there's not a ton of people around. All of the recovery stuff is so focused on the new person, and it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a lot of problems that come after that there's no book for that. You know what? Well, there's a book for it, but there's no there's not a lot of talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
and it makes it more, I don't know if difficult is the right word, but there's more, like, it's like when I'm brand new sober, like, my problems are so simple, and I can just ask anybody in a meeting, and they've got just this blinding words of wisdom for me.
Everything is blinding words of wisdom because you're a fucking chimpanzee.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Right.
yes. And now it's like, well, now I have a much more unique,
finite,
it's a different kind of
focused,
question.
Yeah.
Hey, Mental Defectives.
Would you like to advertise on our podcast?
If so, email us at mentaldefectivespodcast@gmail.com.
So we can help you make a lot of money.
A whole lot of money. Dustin, what advice would you have for someone trying to get sober?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. There's a lot out there about that. But, I'll tell you something. I have a problem with video games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't play video games right now. I'm off the video games.
Okay.
Everybody's got different shit, okay? I know people who can't stop eating. I know sex addicts in recovery. I know people who are obsessed with material things, all that. I don't want to say, it's not a huge problem, but I'm susceptible to video game addiction, right? And I've quit several times, and I haven't been playing video games for a good while now. But, like, sometimes you got to just rip off the fucking Band-Aid, man. I feel this way, too, about spirituality in general, and I think that most addicts know this. You know what you're supposed to do, right? My words, right, are not going to make anybody do what they know they need to do. We all know what we need to do. I know what I need to do. I need to meditate. I need to read. I need to quit watching TV. I need to stay off my fucking phone. I need to look into my daughter's eyes. You know what I mean? I need to not speak ill of people, all these things, right? I need to eat healthy. I need to exercise, whatever. I knew what I needed to do. I needed to go to that fucking detox. That was it. Nothing else matters after that. You got to chop down the tree that's in front of you. That was the tree. That was all there was. Nothing else was possible after that. So, to the new person, I would say, do what you're supposed to do. Just fucking do it. Rip off the Band-Aid, right? I quit playing video games this last time. I was neglecting my family somewhat, whatever. It's bad fucks up your dopamine, all this shit. Yeah. And I went downstairs. I knew what I needed to do. And I knew it for a while before I did it, and I have every time. I ripped that RTX 3090 right out of that fucking tower. You know what I mean? Yeah. I pulled it out. I turned it off. I unplugged it. I pulled the wires off the fucking motherboard. You know what I mean? I can't bring myself to throw it away. Right. But hey, dude, now if you want to play video games, spend 45 minutes putting that fucking shit back together. Yeah. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And then every time I think about going and doing that, it's like, okay. And then do it in shame too, right? Do it knowing full fucking well, right? That you fucking tore that thing apart because you're a weak psychopath, and that was the only way to stop it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like on some level we all know what we need to do, and until you're ready, you're not going to. So a lot of what this is just pointing people to that. Just like, hey, dude, right? Like I can hold your hand. Maybe that'll help a little bit, But even if I'm holding your hand, really, what is that? That's you coming to me and saying, this, and this is going, what should I do? Well, that's what you need to do. Even still, right? Yeah. You're asking, right? So.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody trying to start a small business or their own business?
So, don't.
Bro, you were like the fifth person that's been like, just don't fucking do it.
Fucking do that.
Small business video, like it doesn't matter what it is, like don't fucking do it.
Yeah,
hilarious.
Well, chances are you're gonna fail, and chances are you're gonna give up. Right. So, and a funny thing about that is saying don't. Right. If you really want to do it and you have any chance to succeed, you're gonna do it anyway. Right, so the don't is for everybody who shouldn't. You know what I mean?
That's solid.
Right, and it's also for everybody who should. Right.
Yeah.
But they're gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? You couldn't stop me, bro. Right. And you can't stop me now. I'm coming for Roto-Rooter's throat, bud. You know what I'm saying? and am I gonna get it? No, but that's what I'm after. You know what I mean? And it's rough. It depends on what kind of business you're into. We all know a lot of business owners here, right? Yep. Some of these things are fucking easy, right? The ones that are easy tend not to be moral, right?
I don't imagine anything about plumbing is easy.
It's not. No, it's not. And the thing that sucks about it is it looks a lot easier than it is. But like, like I said, all those different aspects of having the business mixed with the plumbing and everything else. And then, being up against like these giants in the age of marketing and AI and all, they got marketing AI software now. Like what I'm competing with is crazy. It's all very difficult and it's very stressful. You know what I mean? So you got to realize that too. If you do this, at least what I'm doing, like I said, there's all different kinds of business, but you're going to be stressed out for a really long time. You're going to be heavily stressed out, you know. It's going to be way worse than having a job in the beginning. So you just got to know that going into it too. You can't even imagine how, at least like I said, with what I'm doing, I knew it was going to be hard, but I couldn't imagine how hard it was actually going to be. It's working, you know what I mean? But it's not easy.
Yeah.
I spent years, there were times I wouldn't see my kids for 3 days because I'd work 50, 60 hours in construction, plumbing, and then come home and load up all my tools and parts into a minivan because I couldn't leave them in there at night because I'd get stolen.
Right.
And then I'd go out and I'd be in somebody's house at 10 o'clock at night snaking their shit or fixing a leak in the ceiling while they're at the dinner table with their kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like I'm supposed to be at the dinner table with my kids, but I'm trying to build something here for their future.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's you gotta have a good plan, man. That's all.
Hell yeah. Well, Dustin, thank you so much for coming on from shitting and spitting to a spiritual guru
Yeah.
in under an hour, in exactly an hour.
Right.
Last thing before we get out of here, you're big on conspiracy theories, and you're on record as being a flat earther and believing in the hollow earth theory that there's mole people and crab people at the center of the earth controlling both the Democratic and Republican Party. What did you mean by that? That's all the time we have for today. It's Mental Defectives. It's Milligram, Jerry with a G, Dustin. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.